reference, the time for warnings had passed. We went out Friday evening. I was personally there with a coordinated effort between NOPD, our safety and permits inspectors, which included our chief zoning official, and had to take action on 4 businesses. The kind of next steps, these venues have been shut down indefinitely under the COVID guidelines. To request permission to reopen, these businesses must submit plans outlining how they will operate in full compliance with the city's guidelines. These venues cannot reopen until the city is confident that they will operate safely. Additionally, however, our law department is working with the Department of Safety and Permits and is preparing petitions to file before the Alcohol Beverage Control Board. Should the violations be sustained, these establishments may be subject to suspension or revocation of their ability to sell alcohol, in addition to any other remedial actions the board may see fit to take. The ABC board's actions may require the businesses to close for an additional period of time or even permanently, depending on their findings. And finally, the city is sharing its findings with the state ATC, who may take additional measures. We followed up over the weekend and made it clear that we weren't done. We know there are other bad actors out there. We know that we have more to do. We have continued support and additional help from the state ATC, the state fire marshal, and NOPD, and we'll continue this week leading up to the weekend and of course through the weekend in Mardi Gras as the additional restrictions are put in place, maintaining compliance. It's a matter of safety, and I can't make it clear enough that while we used the COVID guidelines in the moment to shut these establishments down on Friday, there were serious safety and fire violations that would have caused them to be shut down in a non-COVID environment, which is why the additional measures may be taken at the state level. I mean, these businesses were closed. When I used the term death trap last week, I was not exaggerating. In fact, there's a photo I think a number of you posted and labeled it an entrance that was being propped open. That was after 200 scared students rampaged out a locked front door. That was the front door of the Red Eye that had a 2x4 bolted from the inside and a locked deadbolt preventing us from entering. We had to use the same backdoor entrance those patrons used, and the photo you saw was the damage caused when those hundreds of people tried to escape. That's a fire hazard. If there was a fire, that could have been a mass casualty.
Yeah, I know so many businesses, they're still saying, hey, you know what, the actions that the city's taking, they're not legal. What's your reaction be to those businesses that say, you don't have the right to shut them down?
I think that's why I made the distinction. I know there's a number of folks in every state across the country arguing that executive orders around COVID are or are not lawful. I can't speak to those, and it's why it's important to reiterate that these businesses will remain closed until they advance through the hurdles and thresholds of the state agencies that actually do govern the legal selling of alcohol. Yeah, and they weren't the only 4 we visited. There were at least 3 other stops made that night to businesses that are regularly, reported to 311, and the reports are egregious. So, everything that goes through 311, we do respond to. When it comes to actually taking this sort of action, it really does require a coordinated effort. We do have to catch people in the violation with the appropriate agencies to take those actions. So Friday, after being pretty clear with folks that we knew who they were and we were going to be taking action, we left with our our list of venues. And as we stopped by, we were very pleased to see that some folks heard the mayor's message, and we're closed by 11 and we're doing things safely. As we arrived at venues that were very clearly not, we took the appropriate action. So yes, there's still a list of folks we'll be visiting throughout this week, and of course throughout all of Carnival.
Okay, so that was kind of my next question. You'll be visiting, continuing to go down that 311 list every day this week, or at Carnival?
Without giving away our movements too much, we did follow up in the East on Saturday night and closed an additional 3 venues down. Again, those 3 were also violating much more than our COVID guidelines and may face the same measures as the previous 4.
And that was Saturday. What were those locations?
So, Sinai Gourmet Restaurant at 5750 Hain Boulevard. Employees were not observing or enforcing mask wearing or social distancing. Alcohol was being served past 11 p.m. And I mean, folks, that's literally the one guideline that has not changed since July. The ATC on site also confirmed the establishment did not have the appropriate permit type to serve alcohol. Fifth Quarter Bar at 5746 Hain Boulevard, very similar list. The G7 Event Hall, 7124 Downman, similar list, but this venue was particularly interesting in that the security guard on site tried to draw his weapon on our code enforcement agents and had to be subdued, just so that we could enter the building to see these violations. So it can't go without being said that we receive a lot of feedback and criticism. Our enforcement agents are out there risking their lives as well, whether it's actually COVID, and we have buried COVID enforcement officers in the last 6 months, or venues themselves taking all measures not to let us in to enforce. So it's dangerous in many situations.
WWL?
Why is the city suddenly shutting down these bars, and maybe there's been bad actors in the past?
Really goes back to Friday, right? And we've said this at every opportunity to respond that we can. That when it comes to the city's enforcement efforts, voluntary compliance is always our goal. Whether it's maintaining your lot and cutting your grass, maintaining your buildings in our historic districts, or COVID. We don't want to shut anyone's business down. We want to reopen our economy safely. We don't want to disadvantage anybody more than they have to be. We've spent almost 10, 11 months now providing, guiding, educating, supporting businesses being in compliance and reopening safely. The time for warnings is past, especially as we head into Carnival season, which we know was our first super spreader event in 2020. So now is the time for us all to hold the line, given that there is real light at the end of this tunnel, right? We're talking about 5 days of tougher restrictions to prevent 5 months of potential surges, spikes, and shutdowns.
Playing devil's advocate here, do you have any sympathy for these businesses that are trying to hold on and maybe bending the rules a little bit?
Of course I do. I spent my early career post-college running restaurants and nightclubs from San Francisco to Las Vegas. I understand the industry. I understand the challenges. I understand that it is less resilient in these times. There's a big difference between the folks who have worked with us and we've supported their safe reopenings and have gotten fair warnings, and the businesses that, as I mentioned, would have been shut down pre-COVID for being unsafe and unlawful. Completely different situations.
Advocate, Jeff?
To follow up on that, so are all 7 of these businesses that have been shut down, is it certain that they won't be reopened before 9 o'clock, or?
So I can't speak to the specific process that the state alcohol control board goes through, or the state ATC. We are submitting our petitions today to those agencies. No idea how long it will take for them to process. As far as the requirement to reopen safely, to submit a plan to the Director of Safety and Permits, I mean, these establishments can do that as soon as they like. We'll work with them to achieve a suitable plan for reopening compliance, but now that we are submitting those petitions, I can't speak to that process.
Jeff, do you have a follow-up? No, take it to the other.
Sorry, I guess clarification. Is the city filing for petitions to shut these bars
So what that means is we are submitting our findings to the state agencies, and they will go through their process to determine whether or not the infractions that we found, which were documented through NOPD body cams, warrant further disciplinary action at those agencies. It was 5750 Hain Boulevard.
S-I-N-A-I?
No apostrophe.
Okay.
To follow up on your question, any of those businesses who are struggling to find ways to reopen, my office through economic development and safety and permits is absolutely committed to streamlining the process to reopen, to devoting resources to helping them find safe plans, to navigating the process as it relates to various city agencies that they may need to interact with to reopen their businesses. We still have parklet and outdoor dining grants available through the NOLA BA. Our heart breaks for everyone right now, and if there's anything more that the Office of Business and External Services can do to support these businesses reopening and operating safely, we're absolutely committed night and day to do so.
Have you received any plans?
From the 7 businesses mentioned, not yet.
Anybody else? We're good?
Thank you.
Everybody.
At all to, this might be an NOPD question, but obviously there were quite a video of quite a rowdy crowd on Thursday night. Being violent, that appears to be well beyond the size limits. What are you all thinking about that?
That is definitely an OPD question. Our officers in code enforcement, safety, and permits are solely responsible for business noncompliance. When it comes to public rights of way, that's an NOPD area. I know, the chief had kind of illustrated pretty clear plans moving through the weekend and into Mardi Gras, activating all of our various public safety agencies from EMS to fire to NOLA Ready to break up these crowds. But I guess that's above my pay grade. I mean, I think in theory they're all public record. I know we are working to retrieve them from NOPD right now. Once they're in our possession, I'll leave that up to my colleagues.
I refer you to Gary Sheets, the current senior PIO with NOPD. You submit the request through them, body cam, they can process that request. Same with 311, any 311 records that you want to request, contact Marcus Creel at OPCD and they'll facilitate that.
Thank you all.
Thank you everybody for coming. Oh wait.
They can stop on Sunday night, right? This is for checking to see if any businesses were not in compliance?
Our enforcement officers are out every night, I assure you. And I personally was out collecting evidence on a number of places in my neighborhood. So again, it takes a little bit more than responding to calls to make sure that we can take the appropriate and necessary action lawfully. So,
Thank you.
thank you all.